Good morning and welcome to Treetops Raceway Park, home of the crossover. In partnership with Bay City Diecast Racing, Tiny Track Cars, and Funkhouser Diecast Racing League, we present the National Super Truck Series. This series will travel to all four tracks, with the drivers accumulating points and the top four racing for the championship in the end. Let's go ahead and take a look at the current track record board and see what time has to be turned to get on the board. A 9.356 is the bottom time. That's what you have to beat. Now I have to get down and get into my truck and get ready for the race. Hey, Ricky, you ready to get up in the booth?
You know Cousin Ricky is always ready to amaze the fans with his exemplary, colorful commentary. And as an added bonus, I'm going to have a little friend joining me up there in the booth.
Don't get too crazy on me, Ricky. I'll be back as soon as I'm done with my race.
And speaking of race, this race is brought to you by Cousin Ricky's Moonshine, the best thirst-quenching, paint-stripping, high-octane racing fuel around. Oh, and I think I hear our special guest coming up into the booth.
All right, Ricky, I got us some popcorn, some hot dogs, and... Wait a minute. This isn't a VIP box. This looks like an announcer's box. Oh my God, Ricky, I thought you said we were here on vacation.
Oh, come on, Funk. Lighten up. It's a change of scenery. Oh, and look, they have buttons everywhere. Ooh, what's this button do?
No, Ricky, it says don't... All right, if you're quite finished screwing around with Sneaky Bob's stuff, we have these driver introductions to get down to.
Ah, you're no fun.
Anyway, starting us off in his number 21 Hot Wheels Draftinator, weighing in at 59.7 grams for Vapor Diecast Racing, it's Sneaky Bob.
Tag in. Up next in his very sharp-looking Hot Wheels 1963 Studebaker Champ, weighing in at 52.9 grams for Blue Line Racing, it's KC.
Well, at least you're improving on your driver introductions. Up next in his flaming hot Hot Wheels 1963 Studebaker Champ, weighing in at 52.9 grams for MQH Racing, it's Big Stank.
And finally, rolling up in his number 0 Hot Wheels Draftinator, weighing in at 58.3 grams for Cash Money Boys, it's Cash Money himself.
And here they are, ladies and gentlemen, your drivers for the National Super Truck Series Heat 3. Now let's get down to the starting grid as KC is sitting there on the front inside pole position as we are set and ready for lap 1, which is now underway.
And as they go down into the crossover, here comes Sneaky Bob underneath with Casey right there on his tail. Casey gives him a shove heading into the first turn. Oh, they're getting together as they're heading down into the next turn. Oh, here comes Cash Money challenging for the lead, but Sneaky Bob puts a block on him as they're heading down to the final stretch.
Oh, and watch out, Casey is riding the rails as they come down to the final stretch. Looks like Sneaky Bob is going to be your winner, followed by Cash Money in second.
In third, it's going to be Big Stank, followed by KC bringing up the rear.
And as we watch the instant replay here, you see KC trying to make a move underneath Sneaky Bob as he moves alongside of him down the stretch into the next turn. He gets Sneaky Bob turned sideways, but he loses momentum. Here you see Cash Money with a great run. Now he's making a move trying to get up next to Sneaky Bob.
Cash Money tries to make a move underneath Sneaky Bob in the next turn, but Sneaky Bob is able to pull forward and shut him down. As behind them, you see Casey loses it as he starts to drift into the next corner, riding the rails as they head down to the final stretch.
All this action taking place behind Sneaky Bob as he's able to create some distance and pull away as he's going to come across the line in first, followed by Cash Money in second, and then you're going to have Big Stank in third, and Casey is able to hang on to his truck as he is able to make it across the line.
And how about Sneaky Bob putting in a first fast track time of 9.593 seconds?
And with that win by Sneaky Bob, it puts him up on the top of the board with 5 points. Then you're going to have Cash Money in second with 3 points. Big Stank sitting there with 2, and KC with 1 point. Now let's get down for lap 2.
And as the drivers rotate their starting positions, you now have Sneaky Bob sitting right there in the front inside pole position with Cash Money right there next to him as lap 2 is now underway.
They're tightly grouped as they head into the crossover, but here comes Cash Money trying to take the lead, but Sneaky Bob's not giving it up. Oh, Cash Money gets turned sideways as head down stretch. Oh, now Sneaky Bob is turned sideways. They're all collected together as they head down to the stretch.
Big Stank's making a move underneath Sneaky Bob. Oh, Sneaky Bob gets turned sideways. Oh, Casey and Sneaky Bob get collected.
All this happening while Cash Money is pulling away with Big Stank now behind him as they come down to the final stretch. Here you see Cash Money getting sideways as he's getting loose all over the place. He's lost a lot of momentum, but but it looks like he's going to make it down to the line as he's going to come across the line in first.
And he's going to come across the line backwards as here you see Big Stank making his moves down to the line. He's going to come in second place.
Tons of chaotic action in this race as the winner of our last race and the current points leader, Sneaky Bob, is caught up in an accident with Casey as we check in on them. Let's go down and check out the action replay as we watch. Here you see them coming out of the turn. You see Sneaky Bob trying to make a pass underneath Cash Money, but Cash Money puts a block on him as they lose momentum. Then you see Big Stank trying to make a move underneath him as well. They finally get straightened back out as Big Stank tries to make a move underneath Sneaky Bob as they head down into the next turn.
Sneaky Bob putting the fenders at Big Stank, but Big Stank says, I've had enough of that as he ends up dumping Sneaky Bob into the corner, but unfortunately Casey gets caught up into the mix and they both end up DNFing.
And throughout all that fender slamming action, Cash Money is able to put down a track time of 11.257 seconds.
And as we check in on Sneaky Bob and Casey, they're being pulled apart by the emergency crews to be set up back for the next starting grid. But while they're doing that, let's check out the new score.
With that DNS, Sneaky Bob falls down as you have Cash Money is now up to the lead with 8 points as Big Stank and Sneaky Bob are now tied for second. Let's get set up for lap 3.
Cash Money is now sitting on that front inside pole position. Can he take advantage of it and add more points onto his lead? Or will Big Stank be able to take it from him as lap 3 is now underway?
As they head down to the crossover, it's Cash Money, but here comes Big Stank trying to make a move, but Cash Money's not giving it up as they're running side by side, heading down. Oh, Cash Money is able to hang on to that lead as they're now battling behind him as Casey and Sneaky Bob get together. But Cash Money is able to pull away as you have the other drivers now fighting for second place behind him.
Here comes Casey making a move underneath Big Stank, but Big Stank puts Casey into the wall. Here comes Cash Money. He's going to come across the line first, followed by Big Stank in second, and then here comes Sneaky Bob able to come in third.
Big Stank's aggressive driving is claiming another victim as Casey is stuck down there on the apron. Let's watch the replay here as you see them come down the stretch. Big Stank just puts Casey right into the wall as Casey loses it and spins around as they head down to the final stretch. Sneaky Bob, seeing the trouble, he goes high as he's able to avoid the accident.
And while that's going on, Cash Money puts down another win and a track time of 9.872 seconds, and Cousin Ricky puts down his own Big Stank.
Wait, do what? Oh, God. Oh, my God, Ricky. What the heck? Oh, my God, Ricky. It's like a cross between rotten eggs and 3-day-old roadkill. Oh, I've got to get out of here. This last lap is yours. Oh, God, that's rank.
But enough jokes. Let's get down to the final lap as now you have Big Stank's going to be sitting there in the lead as we're setting ready for lap 4, which is now underway. Heading down to the crossover, it's Big Stank, but here comes Casey with a huge run as Sneaky Bob's giving him a shove. As they head down to the next turn, Big Stank gives Sneaky Bob a huge push as Sneaky Bob makes a move. Oh, Casey turns Sneaky Bob around as Sneaky Bob is now turned around backwards as he's driving out of his rear view mirrors as they're heading down to the final stretch. Sneaky Bob is drifting around the corner as Casey hits the wall hard. Oh, he's riding the rails. Here comes Big Stank with a move over the top. Down to the line, it's going to be Sneaky Bob coming across in first. Whew, and that's the type of race that I'm talking about as we watch the replay here. Here you see Sneaky Bob getting a shove from Big Stank as he makes a move underneath Casey. But Casey does not going to have any of it as he tries to turn Sneaky Bob around. But Sneaky Bob is able to use his superior driving skills as he shifts it into reverse, heading down to the final stretch, and he's going to end up winning this race. Behind him there in the number 2 spot, there you see Casey hits the wall hard as he rides the rails. Here comes Big Stank making a move up top as he tries to make a pass over Casey as they come down to the line. Big Stank puts a blocking move over Casey as he's able to come across the line in second place. And while all that was going down, Sneaky Bob puts down a track time of 10.135 seconds. And that's going to do it for the National Super Truck Series Heat Group 3 as raise your cousin Ricky moonshine glass to Cash Money himself, who comes in first place with 14 points, followed by Sneaky Bob in second with 12, Big Stank in third with 11, and KC bringing up the rear with 3. And now that he's gotten out of the truck and made his way back up to the announcer's booth, I hand it back over to you, Sneaky Bob.
Thank you, Cousin Ricky. Let's everybody give Ricky a round of applause for stepping in and announcing while I was driving. And now let's get down to driver introductions for Heat 4. First off, you have truck number 55 is Numbskull from Numbskull Racing, and he will be driving his Hot Wheels Draftinator at 59.6 grams. Then we have Daddy G from G4 Diecast Racing. He will be driving a Hot Wheels Draftinator at 59.1 grams. Truck number 28 will be Killer Kowalski from FPD Racing, and he will be in his Hot Wheels Draftinator at 58.7 grams. And finally, Puff in the truck number 29 from Puff's Racing in a Hot Wheels 96 Chevy 1500 at 57.8 grams. Hope you guys liked our guest announcers. And here is Heat 4, Lap 1. You have Daddy G on the inside pole and Numbskull on the outside, and they are off. Head down the front stretch into the crossover. It looks like Numbskull has got a slight lead as he pulls the whole shot. Daddy G gets on the inside of Puff, followed by Killer Kowalski in the back. Numbskull, Daddy G just spins and takes out Puff and Killer Kowalski. Here comes Killer Kowalski and Puff. There goes Numbskull in reverse going into the final turn, and he is stuck on the wall. Killer Kowalski comes around and he hits him. And here comes Daddy G limping to the finish line for the win. We got to see this on replay, folks. Puff is stuck up in the turn. And then we have Numbskull and Killer Kowalski stuck in the final turn. Here you see them going into the turn, and Daddy G gets by Puff and cuts right up in front of Puff. Numbskull's got a nice run, nice line, and going into this turn here, he spins. Take that back. It was Daddy G that spins, and Puff gets up on the wall. Right here is where Numbskull spins and goes in reverse. And he's trying to drive out of his mirrors and does not do a good job of that, and gets up on the wall and gets hung up. And then Killer Kowalski must have been watching him because he hits the wall and gets up and goes and hits him head on. Daddy G's in a slide trying to bring it home, and he will bring it home for the first place points. He turns an 11.684. In a triple DNF with Killer Kowalski, Numbskull, and Puff. We'll see if the tow truck crews can't get them back up to the start line for lap 2. So with that, Daddy G takes a lead with 5. Everybody else is stuck at 0. Now here we go with lap 2 of Heat 4. And we have Numbskull on the inside pole with Puff on the outside. And they're off. Daddy G's giving Numbskull a little tap there. And it looks like Puff is going to get the whole shot, but Numbskull gets on the inside. Puff squawks him off and holds him off. Killer Kowalski gets by Numbskull. Daddy G and Numbskull are getting into it. Puff is going to lead them into the final turn. Puff has a nice run, nice lead, followed by Killer Kowalski. Puff will take the win. And here comes Killer Kowalski for second. And we have a double DNF. Numbskull and Daddy G just couldn't leave each other alone and took each other out. Right here you see Numbskull tries to get by Puff, and Puff squawks him off. And then you see Killer Kowalski gets on the outside and gets by in there on the inside. And then Daddy G and Numbskull get into it. And right there you see Numbskull is facing up, and it stops both of them. A 9.872 was a lap time for Puff. I'm sure they're talking about that right there from their trucks, yelling back and forth a little bit. So with that, you have Puff and Daddy G tied at 5, Killer Kowalski with 3. Now let's go into lap 3. You have Puff on the front row inside for the pole. You have Killer Kowalski on the outside, and they're off. It looks like Killer Kowalski is going to take the whole shot. He does. Followed by Puff, and Daddy G gets by Puff. Puff spins around. Him and Numbskull are getting into it. Killer Kowalski is going to take them down to the final turn, followed by Daddy G. Here comes Puff. And it looks like Killer Kowalski gets up on the rail, gets up on his side, and he flips over in the final turn and back over on his wheels. Here comes Daddy G. He gets by. And Daddy G will come in for the win. Here comes Puff backwards. He will get through the final turn, and he will come in for second. Right there you see Killer Kowalski down in the final turn, along with Numbskull, who stalled out up next to the police officer. Right here you see Puff get by Daddy G, but then Daddy G gets a bump from Numbskull, gets back by, squawks Puff. Numbskull flips Puff around. Puff continues, but Numbskull stops right there. And right here you see Killer Kowalski gets up on his side, hitting that wall, rolls over on his roof, and continues all the way over back on his wheels. And Daddy G has enough momentum to knock him off the track and make it all the way to the finish line. What a win by Daddy G. And Puff, in reverse, finds a way to get the points he needs by taking second. An 11.1 by Daddy G. We'll see if we can't get Killer Kowalski and Numbskull back up to the start line for the last lap. This group has had more DNFs so far than any of the other groups. Right now, Daddy G sits on top of the board with 10, followed by Puff with 8, Killer Kowalski with 3, and Numbskull is yet to finish a lap. That is unheard of from Numbskull. And here we got lap 4. We got Killer Kowalski on the inside pole, Daddy G on the outside. They're off. Looks like Daddy G has got the whole shot, but Killer Kowalski's Daddy G squawks him off, gets spun. Daddy G's in reverse. Numbskull is pushing Daddy G. Daddy G gets down backwards. He is followed by Numbskull. You'll see Daddy G taking them into the final turn. He will come in reverse and he will get the win. And here comes Numbskull, and Numbskull will finish this lap in second place. But once again, we have another double DNF. Killer Kowalski and Puff just couldn't leave each other alone. Right here you see Daddy G comes down and squawks Killer Kowalski. Numbskull tries to push Daddy G around. Puff gives Numbskull a tap. And they get going again, and right here, oh, Killer Kowalski gets up on the wall and just stops everybody. And behind him, which is Puff. Numbskull just gets barely rolling down. They try to chase down Daddy G, but Daddy G is not going to get caught. He's driving faster in reverse right now than everybody else in forward. An 11.074 for Daddy G. We've got some trucks that need to be taken back to the pit area and get some work done so they can be ready to head off to the next track. And let's see how the points shake out now. Daddy G with 15 wins the group. Puff with 8. Killer Kowalski and Numbskull tied at 3. And now for your overall points board. Flip retains number 1. Daddy G moves into second. Dusty Miles is third. Cash Money is fourth. And Sneaky Bob is fifth. The next stop will be Funkhouser Diecast Racing League, home of Cousin Ricky. I want to thank all the competitors that sent trucks in to qualify for this race. If you liked what you saw here today, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe and the notification bell, and as always, thanks for watching. We will see you at Old Yadkin Valley Speedway.